Sixth graders, our lesson today is on converting fractions to decimals and decimals to fractions and how those numbers are related. Okay? So, let's start with fractions. When you have a fraction, you can read the number, when you have a decimal, you can read the number and convert it to a fraction form, like this. If you have, starting with the decimal, 7/10, because all decimals are written as powers of 10. They're all like 1/10, 5/100ths, 12 thousandths, things like that. They're all powers of 10. You can write them in fraction form simply by reading it and then writing the place of the last digit as the denominator. So 7/10 would be written as 7/10. 5/10 would be written as 5/10, and then reduced to 1/2. Right? Does everybody get that? Read the number and write the place of the last digit as the denominator. And then you'll have to put it in the simplest form, of course. Right? Of course. How about this one? 62/100ths. We'd write that as 62/100. Then, since they're both even, you have to divide them by 2 and get 31/50ths. Okay? What if you have a mixed number? Like 4 and 35/100ths. Look at this one. 4 and 35/100ths. Abby, what do we do with the 4? You make it the whole number. As a mixed number, if this becomes the whole number, then 35/100ths is written as, we're starting with the decimal. Okay, and then writing it as a fraction. But we can't leave it as 35/100ths. Why not? Emily? Both are divisible by 35. Is that divisible by 2? By 5. Right? So we have to divide 35 by 5 and 100 by 5. So 4 and 35/100ths becomes what, Nate?
4 and 7/20.
4 and 7/20. Any questions? Any questions on that? Okay, let's go to writing a fraction as a decimal. For a fraction to decimal, you divide the numerator by the denominator. The top number divided by the bottom number. It's really similar to converting the top-heavy fraction to a mixed number. But instead, most of the time, the fraction will be a lower number on the top. And so we'll have to use a decimal point to divide this out. Okay? Now let's take a look at one like this, 1/9. The top number always goes inside the house when you're dividing this. Okay? So 1 divided by 9. Now 1 is smaller than 9, right? So you know your answer is going to be less than 1. You're not going to be able to make any holes. It's going to be less than 1. So we have to put a decimal point, because 9 doesn't, 1 is not divisible by 9. We have to put a decimal point up into the answer, and then put a 0 in order to divide it. Then 9 goes into 10, how many times? Once. So that's that 1. 1 times 9 is 9. We subtract this. 10, and remember when we're dividing it out, once we know where the decimal point goes, then you ignore it when you're dividing it out. You simply divide this out with treating this like the number 10, not treating it like 1.0. We simply need to know where the decimal point goes. Okay? But we treat this as 10 minus 9. What's 10 minus 9? 1. Bring down a 0 and put 9 into 10 again. It's 1. 1 times 9 is 9. Find the remainder is 1. What do you notice? What's the pattern here? Jen? It's repeating. What's repeating? Yep, it's called a repeating decimal. And when you have a repeating decimal, you write the decimal and you put a line called the repetend sign or the repeating sign. The repeating sign goes over the digits that repeat. Only over the digits that repeat, not over the other numbers. Only over the digits that repeat. So if it was 0.1 repeating, you put the repeating sign over the 1. If it was 0.1666666, so only the 6 is repeating, then the line would only go over the 6. Okay? Let's try some more. What if we had, let's say we had 6 ninths. What would you do with 6 ninths? Okay, 6 divided by 9. What if we wanted to just do 1 divided by 3? Wouldn't that be easier?
Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, this might be one that you memorize. No, we put the 1 in. Oops. Put the 1 inside the house. 1 divided by 3. 0.1, so we put the decimal point there again. 3 goes into 10 how many times? 3 times. 3 times 3 is? 9. 1, bring down a 0. Hey, we've done this before. 3. What's repeating? Zoe. The 3. So how would we write this as a decimal? Keep going, Zoe. Which digit is repeating? The 3. So, what would we write? 3/10 with the, what's that? Sign? The repeating sign over the 3. Yeah. Over the 3. Now, let's see if there's some decimals that you recognize, or some fractions that you recognize. How about this one? What's this as a decimal? Oh, come on, people. 1/2? No. No. 5/10. 0.5. Right? What's 1/3? Let's see. What's 1/3? Yes, we just did that. Come on, people. Tyler.
3/10 repeating.
3/10 repeating. Somebody paying attention? What would 2/3 be? If 1/3 is 3/10 repeating, you know what 2/3 is? Noah?
0.6 repeating?
Yeah, 6/10 repeating. Well, we're doubling it, aren't we? 1/3 to 2/3. Okay, 3/3 would be 1, wouldn't it? How about these? These are easy also. What's that one? Alex?
Wait.
As a decimal.
4 times 15?
No.
8 times 15?
No, it's not a repeating one.
2500?
2500, 0.25, like 25 cents. Because 25 cents is 1/4 of a dollar. Right? What would 2/4 be? We'll put this one over here, 2/4. Rice? Yeah, 1/2, which is 0.5. We reduced that, right? 2/4. Anytime you have a half, 3/6, 4/8, 5/10. It's 1/2, isn't it? 5/10. What about 3/4? You should know that one. 3/4. Cal?
75.
Good. 75. 0.75. 7,500. And then I'll give you these. Okay? We did 1/9. What was 1/9? Remember? Liz? It's in your notes. You just wrote them down.
Um, 0.1.
0.1 repeating. Yep. What was 3/9? I'm going to show you a pattern here. Max?
It would be 3 repeating?
Yeah, because that's 1/3, isn't it? So that's 0.3 repeating. If 1/9 is 1 repeating, 3/9 is 3 repeating, what do you think 2/9 is? Ariana? Yeah, 2/10 repeating. What do you think 4/9 is?
4. Yeah, 5.
Nate?
0.4 repeating.
Right. 5/9 is 5 repeating. 6/9 is 6 repeating. So all the ninths are the numerator repeating. Okay? So that'll save you some figuring if you get that one. Okay? I'll give you one more that's simple to remember. These would be good ones to memorize because they will help you do math faster. Okay? This one is 1/5. I'll give you a hint. What is 1/5 as a tenth? 2/10. What is 2/10 as a decimal? 2/10, people. How do you write 2/10 as a decimal?
0.2.
2/10, 0.2. Right? What about 2/5?
So 4/10.
Would be 4/10, which would be,
0.4.
how about 3/5? 6/10, 0.6. Yeah. How about 4/5?
8 cents.
Yes. 8/10, 0.8. So these are ones that you can remember. These are easy ones to remember, okay? Now, they might come in handy when you're doing this.
Wait, what? I didn't sign that.
How many of you wrote these down already? Oh, okay. Let's Don't you think that'd be a good idea? That's going to help you remember them. Or you could just close your notebook. Thanks. Tyler's writing them down. Good job, Tyler.
Good for you, Tyler. You should so special. You get a high five.
Well, he's just going to finish his homework faster than you.
Yay.
Okay. All right. Number 1. Write it as a fraction. How do you read that, Jen? 48 hundredths. Good. So you write it as 48 hundredths. And then what, dear? Can we leave it as 48 hundredths? No, we have to do what? Simplest form. Yep. So divide it by 24? Or what are you dividing it by? You can divide it by any number you want. Divide them by 2. Let's see what we get. 24 fiftieths. Can we reduce that?
Yeah.
Yeah. What can we reduce that to?
12.
12.
And that's it.
25ths, yeah. Can we reduce that?
That's it. You can't simplify it.
That's it, right? You don't have any more common factors. Okay? So, this equals 12 25ths. In simplest form. Number 2. 8 tenths is what? We talked about this one, didn't we? Emily? Oh, okay. That's kind of an emergency. 8 tenths. Daria?
2. You could go. Oh, I mean, yeah.
Oh yeah, 8 tenths.
And then you could
2
do 2.
divided by 2.
And then 5.
Yeah, remember we talked about this one. 8 tenths and 4 fifths. 4 fifths, if we double 4, it's 8. If we double 5, it's 10. So 8 tenths and 4 fifths. Good. Go down to number 6. It says identify the point on the number line. This is kind of like a ruler or something to measure with. Yeah. And so there are tick marks between 0 and 1. Here's 0, here's 1. How many spaces are there between 0 and 1? Count the spaces. Count the spaces between 0 and 1. How many are there, Cole?
10.
10. And it marks where 0.5 is. So if there's 10 spaces, this is divided into what?
1.
No, it's divided into tenths. Right? So then the next one after 0.5 would be 1/10 higher.
It's the number line is 0 through 2.
I know, but A and B are 0 through 1. And so for number 6, it's 1/10 higher, isn't it? 0.6. And B is 2/10 higher. 0.7. Okay. You'll have to do the same thing on the back side. Convert the decimals to fractions by reading the decimal and writing the fraction. And then, one more thing, we have to convert some fractions to decimals. What do we do with this one? Which number goes inside the house? The top number. The top number goes inside. So 17 goes inside. 25. This is 17 divided by 25. When you're reading it, you read the top number first, don't you?
Yep.
Don't you read 17 over 25? Or 17 25ths? Then it's 17 divided by 25. And if the top number goes on the inside. Then we have to add a 0. And then we have to divide a number by 25, which is what we've been doing in our fantasy football league for the last 3 months. Well, 2.5 months. Is dividing numbers by 25. What if you have 170 divided by 25? What is that? 25 goes into 170. How many times? 6 times. 6 quarters. That's 150. Remainder 20. Bring down a 0, which is what I did here already. Bring down a 0. 25 goes into 200.
That would be about 10.
About 10. I mean, doesn't it go 4 times per 100?
About 8.
About 8. Yeah, about 8. In fact, exactly 8.
About exactly.
Right? Any questions on these? All right, have fun.